So hey guys, welcome to our second video in our Java tutorial series. And today we are actually going to be looking into variables and data types. So from creating variables, what is a data type, and actually the types of data that you can actually use, right? So without wasting much of the time, let's get started. So firstly, I'm going to type in a bunch of information here, which is the information that I would want to use in this video. Let me just type in like this. Then we have a negative 22. What is the next? 19.22. Then we have a sorry. Then we have a true. After true, want to type in something like this. Sorry, which is false, right? Like this. So I'll give an example of Facebook, right? I'm sure pretty much of most of people that are viewing this video know Facebook when you've actually used Facebook or you are on Facebook, right? So Facebook can actually store a bunch of information about you. They can actually store your name, right? Which is like storing your name, not store of stealing, but just store of storing your name, like which is your name, your age, your date of birth, like pretty much anything that they need, right? So here I've actually typed in my name here. So the reason why I did type in my name here is to shed light on a variable on a data type known as a string, right? So firstly, this is actually a bunch of characters, right? Which is a sequence of characters, right? So in Java we can say a sequence of characters, right? Probably not just in Java, but so many programming languages, a sequence of characters, they're actually known to be a data type of string, right? Let's just leave it like that. I'll come back to that one, right? Then we have here, we can actually see it's 22, right? So 22 is a number, right? And it's a whole number. So whole numbers, we can actually it is a data type known as an integer, right? So we can say it is an integer. Then we go on to this one. It's negative 22, right? It's negative. So is it actually going to be an integer or not? Well, an integer, the definition is of a whole number. So a whole number can actually be positive or negative. Here we're talking of whole numbers, like numbers that do not have commas, right? So it's actually an integer. Then let's go on to this one, 19,22, right? So this is actually not an integer because integers are whole numbers. So this is another data type that we can have. So this data type is known as a float because this number contains a floating point. Then we go on to this. It's just t, right? Which is one character. Here we had a sequence of characters, right? A bunch of characters. So here I want to go on to present a data type known as a character. That's so we're saying char, just like this. Okay, let's just type in a character. Then we have this one, which is true. So these are last two ones. You can see is true or false. They are with a data type that can only exist in two states. Either it's true or false. Nothing more, nothing less. So this data type is actually known as a Boolean, like this. It's a Boolean, then a Boolean, like this. So let's go on to the first one, like Takuzga, the first one that we had here. We're actually going round two of going up from down into here. So a string, specifically in Java, a string has to be in double quotation marks, right? So for it to be a valid string, it has to be in quotation marks, but not those quotation marks need to be true, like double quotation marks, like this. All right. So this is a string, right? So let's go on the next. It's an integer. Do you have to be in double quotation marks or single quotation marks or leave it like that? Well, we have to leave it like that. It's a number, right? Just like this, 22. Then we go on to this. It's actually negative 22. It's actually an integer. We just have to leave it like that. Because if you come here and put double quotation marks here, it's no longer an integer, but it's now a string. Because a string has to be in double quotation marks. Although we are storing a number in here, it's no longer an integer, it's a string, right? Then we go on to this 19,22, right? What we have here is a data type float. We have to keep it like this. We don't have to put quotation marks whatsoever. Then we have this one, which is a character, right? So this is just a character, like to say T, or we can have A on its own, or we can have B whatever that you want. But for it to be recognized as a character, it has to be in quotation marks. And these quotation marks have to be single, right? Like this, just single quotation marks. So if we put like this or a double quotation marks here, it's no longer a character. It is now a string, because a string, it is represented by double quotation marks, right? So here we have to leave it like this, like a single quotation marks. Note the difference between a string and a character. A character is in single quotation marks and a string is in double quotation marks, right? And here we cannot have to say it's t, right? Then we put a here. It is invalid because we have to be storing only one single character. Then let's go on to the next. We have true and we have false. These have to be actually left like this. You can see they're actually printed in a color which is different from the others. So you can see there are some sort, you can say, special type, right? We don't have to put double quotation marks here or quotation marks or whatsoever. We have to leave it like this. If you put quotation marks like this, then it's no longer a boolean, it is now a string, right? Let's go on to this. So we have talked about a string, an integer, a float, a character, and a boolean, right? Let's just switch on for a moment to variables, right? So in variables, in mathematics, variables are actually something that can store that you can use to store values, right? You can you have x is equals to 1, x is equals to what, and then you can actually do your math, right? So there's nothing much different when it comes to programming. Those is the concept that we are going to use, right? But when creating a variable, right, in Java, there's a syntax that we need to follow. This syntax is like this. We have to give the type of the variable. Sorry, let me just do this. The type of the variable, right, which is the data type, and then we have the variable name, right? Then it is actually valid like this. You can not put anything or just leave it like that, but it's actually valid. But you can go on like to say you have said already the variable that I need of this type and this name is like this, and you can actually give it a value, right? You can say then equals, then you give it a value like that one, right? So that is this syntax that you can use. So let me just copy it like this, then down here I put this, then so these are actually the two methods, like the two forms, like the syntax that you can actually use when you want to create a variable in Java. So next, we need to give this Takuzwa into a variable, right? Then, which is actually valid variable, and actually, then we are actually going to see these red warnings going like, anyways. Now let's type in first, right? Which is string. Then let's give it like a first name equals to Takuzwa. Then in Java, every line of code that you write, with the exception of only lines that you have these curly braces or which end in these curly braces or start with these curly braces, you have to put a quotation marks. So not sorry, not quotation marks, but a semicolon. Like I don't know why I got that same, but so in actually every line of code that you write, with the exception of these lines that are end in these curly braces, right? That means you have to put a semicolon, like what we did here on this line, or line number 3. We actually had semicolon, right? So let's go on here. Then now the string that we are typed on here, you say it is in small letters, right? But in Java, this other type of string actually has a capital S, so just note that one. Then we have this one, which is 22, right? We said it's an integer, right? So let's go on and actually declare an integer, which is int, then type in age equals, we have 22, then we put a semicolon, right? So we don't have to type, I'm not sure, you don't have to type integer like that one. Yes, you just have to type int and you'll be good to go, right? Then we have this one, it's actually an integer, right? So we go on to type int, Then we can say I don't know, let's just say age 2, and then we type in like this. There's no person with a negative age, so let's just type a number like that one. Yeah, that really makes sense. Then we have like this one, which is a float, right? So let's go on to type in we're actually following the syntax that I said before. So it's actually float. Then we have, I can say, number 2, then equals to this one, 19 comma 2, right? Let's go on to the next one. We said it's a character, so we said, so here we can say cha, then we say character equals t, right? And we are good to go. Then now let's go on to this. So you don't have to type in a character the whole sentence, like the whole way. You just type in cha, right? Then let's go on to this. The next one we're going to type it's what? It's boo t is equals to like this. Sorry, boolean, like this, not just boo. I don't know where I got that one. So let's just type in something like this. Boolean t is equals to true. And let's go on to this boolean. Let's just, I don't know, m equals false. And then we put a semicolon, right? Notice that we have something that we have here. It's cannot convert from double to float. Yes, it's actually valid, right? So let me put something in here, just like an F, and you can see that that error is gone, but we have these these ones, these yellow warnings that we have here. Let's just leave it like that. Well, everything is fine. Then, so what we had here is actually, all right, let me there's a data type known as double. Let's just do double, and then we say d is equals to, and then 19.22, like this. So this is our data type known as double, right? So if it is actually like this, to say 19.22, right, like this one, we can consider it's not, we can consider it, but it is considered as a double or variable data type of double. But then if you need a float, right, just taking this, whatever you have is a double, and just put an f at the end, and it's actually a data type float. Now let's go on to the next thing that I need to talk about is valid variable names. We talked about creating a variable, and we talked about putting a value into a variable like this. We say the string, right, first name, and we give it to Takuzwa, but we can actually do something like this. Let me remove this, and then down here we can go on to say first name is equals to Takuzwa, like this. So what we did first here is we actually initialized a variable, but we didn't give it a value, right? But here when we do this to say first name and give it this value of Takuzwa, then it means first name now with a value Takuzwa. So let me just copy on this that we had here, just put it down here, and then instead of printing hello world, I'm going to give it a this variable first name, and let's run it and see what we are going to get. You see, we get this. Let me just clear out this, run this, and see what we are going to get. You see, we have yellow Takuzwa, that we have yellow world that we have at the top, and then we have Takuzwa printed out down here. That means this variable first name holds the value Takuzwa. If you take the age right here and give it to here, and later actually run this and see what we are going to get. We're going to get 22. That means the variable age holds the value 22, right? So now let's go on to our valid variable names. So for a variable name should be like of one, like for it, what I'm going to say is, like, you cannot have a variable name to say I want to type in first name, right? This is actually first, and then you give it name like this. It's not actually going to work because you have space here. So they have to be a sequence of characters that are next to each other, that are adjacent to each other, like this. If you need space here, you can actually type in an underscore like this, right? And you can say just like this. We have first, and then here I have to create something like this. Then what did I say? First, it's actually name like this, right? So you can actually put an underscore here, or you can do a camel casing to say this is actually first, right? If you need another name to be there, you can actually go on and say like this. Instead of putting an underscore, you can actually camel case it, and then you, that means the word that you want to be next, you give it the first letter to be capitalized, right? Then just like this. So other thing is you cannot put special characters on your variable name. These special characters I'm talking is this asterisk, which is like, or you can say a star or what, but it's an asterisk. So that means you cannot put this. You see, we have this red warning that we have here. It's actually a syntax error on token whatever. Then you cannot put also like this, and a bunch of characters which are literally like, and even this we cannot put it, right? So those special characters, you cannot put them on a variable. So a variable cannot actually start with a number like this. You see, if you try to do like this, we get this red warning. So a variable cannot start with a number, right? But they can actually end with a number. We have our first name 2 like this, then we have something like this. It's actually first name 2. It is actually a valid variable name, right? And the other thing, a variable can actually start with an underscore, and they can actually end with an underscore. So it still remains a valid variable name, right? Okay, so with that, I'm actually going to wrap up the video here. That is me for this video. We're talking about the variables and data types. If you find the content that I do on this channel very, very helpful, like is in this video and other videos that I do, very helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel, hit the like button, and your feedback is really, really important. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and goodbye. I'll see you in another YouTube video.